Captain James Walker stood on the bridge of the ESS Horizon, Earth's first true interstellar vessel. The view screen displayed a sprawling alien city on a planet the aliens called Terris. It was humanity's first contact with an advanced extraterrestrial civilization. The Varan Confederacy and initial relations had been promising. "They're requesting another meeting, Captain," Lieutenant Reed said from her communication station. "The Varan High Chancellor specifically asked for you." Walker nodded. The Varan were elegant, tall beings with iridescent skin and 4 arms. They appeared peaceful, intellectual, and had welcomed humanity to the galactic community with apparent openness. What the humans didn't know was that they were being assessed. High Chancellor Lorix studied the human delegation with cold calculation behind his welcoming demeanor. The Varan Confederacy had ruled this sector for millennia, absorbing or subjugating dozens of species. Humans were just the latest curiosity. "Your species has achieved remarkable progress in such a short evolutionary timeframe," Lorix commented. "We find your adaptability fascinating." Walker smiled, unaware of the true meaning behind those words. "We're eager to learn from more established civilizations like yours." That evening, in the sacred chambers beneath the capital city, Lorix met with the Varan Council. "The humans are dangerous," he declared. "Their biological and psychological profiles are unlike anything we've encountered. They evolved as pursuit predators on a death world. They can endure incredible physical hardship. They form intense social bonds. They're unpredictable, innovative, and worst of all, they never stop." Elder Mavis raised a slender hand. "But they are technologically inferior. Their weapons are primitive compared to ours." "For now," Lorix countered, "but they learn at an exponential rate. Our projections indicate they could match our technology within a century, a mere blink in cosmic time. We cannot allow this potential threat to develop." The Council deliberated briefly before reaching consensus. Humanity would be contained. Back on Earth, Admiral Thomas Grant reviewed reports from 12 human colonies across 3 star systems. Humanity had expanded rapidly since discovering faster-than-light travel 15 years ago. When his aide rushed in with an urgent communication, Grant's world changed forever. "Sir, the horizon has been destroyed. The Varan launched an unprovoked attack. They're claiming it was a regrettable accident, but our survivors report targeted weapons fire." Grant's face hardened. "Casualties." Captain Walker and 83 crew confirmed dead. 42 survivors in escape pods. That same day, Varan battleships appeared over human colony worlds. Their message was simple. Humans would be restricted to their home system. Any attempt to expand further would be met with force. The Varan expected compliance. What they didn't understand was that humans had evolved on a planet where every predator, every disease, every natural disaster had tried to kill them. And failed. Humanity had not just survived. They had conquered their world through stubborn determination and the refusal to submit. As diplomatic channels went silent, Admiral Grant addressed the United Earth Defense Council. "Make no mistake," he said grimly, "this isn't about territory or resources. The Varan fear us. They fear what we might become. They decided to cage us before we could challenge them." He paused, looking at each council member. "But humanity has never accepted captivity." The vote was unanimous. Humanity would not retreat. They would not surrender their colonies or their future among the stars. In the darkness of space, the seeds of a war that would reshape the galaxy were sown, a war that would reveal just how terrifying humans could be when cornered. The first year of the conflict was brutal for humanity. The Varan possessed energy shields, plasma weapons, and ships that could outmaneuver Earth's finest vessels. 3 colony worlds fell within months. Billions died. But humans, as they had done throughout their bloody history, adapted. In an underground facility on Mars, Dr. Emma Hayes led a team analyzing captured Varan technology. She hadn't slept in 3 days, surviving on synthetic stimulants and determination. Their shields operate on a predictable frequency rotation. She explained to General Marcus Reed. There's a millisecond vulnerability during each cycle shift. It's not much, but it's enough. Reed finished, understanding immediately. Within weeks, human weapon systems were recalibrated to exploit this weakness. The next Varan attack fleet encountered something they hadn't expected: resistance. Admiral Cora of the Varan Command was the first to recognize the danger. After losing 3 cruisers to seemingly inferior human vessels, she urgently contacted High Chancellor Lorix. "They're learning, adapting faster than any species we've encountered," she reported. "They've already identified weaknesses in our shield systems that took other civilizations centuries to discover." Lorix dismissed her concerns. "They're still primitives. Crush them with overwhelming force." But the humans had another advantage the Varan hadn't counted on: their evolutionary history. Earth's gravity was 1.3 times stronger than the Varan homeworld. Humans had evolved under greater pressure, with denser muscle tissue and more efficient oxygen utilization. In direct ground combat, a single human soldier could overpower 3 Varan warriors. When Varan ground forces invaded the Armstrong colony on Proxima Centauri, they expected quick victory. Instead, they encountered human soldiers who fought with shocking ferocity, who could continue fighting despite injuries that would incapacitate any Varan. Colonel Jack Tanner led the defense of Armstrong City. When Varan forces breached the main gate, Tanner's troops didn't retreat. They engaged in close combat, a tactic the Varan considered primitive and had little experience with. The resulting battle shocked the invaders. Human soldiers charged Varan lines, absorbing plasma fire that should have stopped them, fighting through pain that would have paralyzed other species. The Varan commander, witnessing humans continuing to fight with grievous injuries, sent a classified report back to the High Command using a single human word they had learned: monsters. On Earth, humanity's industrial machine transformed. Factories that had produced consumer goods now manufactured weapons and ships. Scientists who had researched medicine now developed more efficient ways to kill Varan. Children studied Varan language and tactics in school. The entire species focused on a single goal: survival. In the shipyards orbiting Jupiter, Admiral Grant inspected humanity's new flagship, the ESS Vengeance. Built with reverse-engineered Varan technology and human ingenuity, it represented a quantum leap forward. "We've incorporated everything we've learned," said Chief Engineer Rodriguez. "Their shield frequencies, propulsion systems, weapons capabilities, and we've improved upon them." Grant nodded grimly. "How soon can we deploy?" 3 weeks. "We're arming the entire Orion fleet with the new systems." Grant stared at the massive vessel through the viewport. The Varan thought they were containing a nuisance. They didn't realize they were poking a hornet's nest. Across the stars, the Varan Confederacy began to understand their miscalculation. Species they had easily subjugated in the past accepted their place in the galactic hierarchy after a show of superior force. Humans did not. Each defeat seemed to make them more determined, more innovative, more willing to sacrifice for victory. They weren't just fighting a war. They were evolving to win it. 3 years into the war, the tide began to turn. Humanity no longer merely defended. They hunted. The ESS Vengeance led a strike force deep into Varan territory, targeting their shipyards around Naltos, their third most important world. Admiral Grant stood on the bridge, watching as human vessels, now incorporating Varan technology with human innovations, tore through the enemy defenses. "Status report," Grant ordered. "Their defense grid is down, Admiral," his tactical officer replied. "Shipyards 2 through 7 have been neutralized. Minimal casualties on our side." The Vengeance's science officer, Dr. Layton, approached with a datapad. "Sir, we've analyzed their communication patterns. They're frightened, not just of defeat, but of us specifically." Grant's expression remained impassive. "Good. Fear is a weapon too." Across Varan space, that fear was spreading. For the first time in 12,000 years, The Confederacy faced an enemy that grew stronger from conflict rather than weaker, an enemy that studied, adapted, and evolved its tactics with disturbing speed. High Chancellor Lorix convened an emergency session of the Galactic Council, inviting representatives from all major species in their sphere of influence. "The human threat affects us all," he declared. "If they defeat the Varen, do you believe they will show mercy to those who stood with us? We must unite against this predatory species." Most representatives nodded in solemn agreement, but Telix, the ancient Brecon observer who had witnessed millennia of Varen domination, spoke up. "Perhaps the predator we already know is worse than the one we fear," he said quietly. "The humans fight because you tried to cage them. Has any species that submitted to you truly prospered under Varen protection?" The question hung in the air, unanswered. Meanwhile, humanity's scientific community continued to push boundaries. In a research facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Hayes made another breakthrough. "We've decoded their faster-than-light communications network," she told the United Earth Defense Council. "We can not only listen to their transmissions but insert our own messages. We can feed them false information, turn their coordination against them." Council Chair Rivera leaned forward. "Can we use this to end the war?" Hayes shook her head. "The Varen leadership believes we're an existential threat. Our intelligence indicates they're developing a bioweapon targeted specifically at human DNA. They're planning our extinction, not our surrender." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "Then we have no choice," Rivera said finally. "If it's extinction or victory, we choose victory." Operation Phantom began the following month. Human ships, using the stolen communications codes, appeared and disappeared throughout Varen space, striking military targets and vanishing before reinforcements arrived. The Varen, unable to determine what was legitimate intelligence and what was human deception, began firing on their own ships out of paranoia. On the Varen homeworld, Lorix watched his carefully constructed power structure crumble. Reports of human atrocities, most manufactured by his own propaganda ministry, had backfired, creating a mythos around humanity that terrified his people. "How do we fight an enemy that turns our weapons against us?" his advisors asked. "One that sees in the dark, that can run for days without rest, that views pain as merely information, that grows stronger with each defeat." Lorix had no answer. The species that had dominated their corner of the galaxy for thousands of years had finally met their match, not in technology or numbers, but in the relentless adaptability of humanity, a species forged in the crucible of Earth's unforgiving evolution. The hunters had become the hunted, and for the first time, the Varen knew fear. 5 years into the war, the Zell, a species long subjugated by the Varen, approached human commanders with an offer of alliance. Their ambassador, Telk, met with Admiral Grant aboard the Vengeance. "For 3 centuries, we have served as their engineers," Telk explained, his translucent skin pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. "We know their infrastructure, their weaknesses. We can help you strike at targets you don't even know exist." Grant studied the alien carefully. "Why trust us? You know what we're capable of." Telk's inner lights flickered in what humans had learned was their equivalent of a smile. "Because you fight only those who fight you. The Varen told us you would exterminate all non-humans upon victory. Yet we've observed your forces sparing civilian populations, even at tactical disadvantage." The alliance with the Zell provided humanity with invaluable intelligence. Other subjugated species watched carefully, and when humans liberated Zell worlds without claiming them as conquests, more defections from the Confederacy followed. The Varen's 1,000-year empire began to fracture from within. On Earth, military academies now trained officers in xenopsychology and the specific vulnerabilities of 24 alien physiologies. Humanity had transformed into a species of warriors who understood their enemies better than they understood themselves. At the Ganymede Military Academy, Instructor Commander Diane Park addressed a class of cadets. "The Varen made a critical error," she explained, pacing before a holographic display of enemy territory. "They judged us by our technology, not our nature. Humanity evolved in an environment where we were rarely the strongest or fastest predator, but we became apex predators through persistence, cooperation, and tool use. She pointed to the display. The Varen never needed these adaptations. They evolved in an environment where they were always dominant. This makes them predictable. They expect enemies to behave as they would, to surrender when outmatched, to flee when threatened. A cadet raised her hand. But Commander, their bioweapons program has been neutralized, Park finished. Last month's raid on their research facility on Vega IX eliminated that threat. They underestimated both our intelligence capabilities and our resolve. The war's turning point came at the Battle of Arcturus. The Varen amassed their largest fleet, nearly 300 vessels, to crush the human presence in that system once and for all. It was their traditional strategy. Overwhelming force to demonstrate the futility of resistance. Admiral Grant, with only 67 ships, did not retreat. Instead, he divided his forces into small, mobile strike teams that attacked from multiple vectors, using Arcturus's dense asteroid field to mask their movements. Target their flagships, Grant ordered. Their command structure is hierarchical. They don't adapt well when leadership is compromised. The battle lasted 3 days. When it ended, the Varen fleet was in ruins, their rigid command structure shattered by the loss of their leading officers. Human ships, operating with greater autonomy and initiative, had prevailed against an enemy that outnumbered them 4-1. News of the defeat spread rapidly through the Confederacy. On 5 worlds, subject species rose in rebellion. The Varen military, stretched thin, could not contain the spreading insurgency. High Chancellor Lorix, his authority crumbling, called for his final option. "Activate the purifier," he commanded. "If we cannot defeat the humans, we will make an example of them that will quell all thoughts of rebellion for the next 1,000 years." The purifier, a weapon of last resort capable of stripping a planet's atmosphere, was brought out of its secret location and aimed at Earth. The Varen expected this threat to finally bring humans to their knees. They were wrong. When the ultimatum reached Earth, the Defense Council's response was immediate. Full-scale assault on all Varen core worlds simultaneously. No more measured attacks. No more surgical strikes. If they threaten our homeworld, Grant told his commanders, they've removed all restraint from our response. The war entered its most devastating phase, and the galaxy watched as humanity revealed the full extent of its predatory nature. The Varen had ruled through fear for millennia, but they had never encountered a species that responded to fear with rage rather than submission. As news of the Purifier's deployment spread, humans didn't beg for terms. They accelerated their offensive. Human intelligence networks had long identified all 5 of the Varen core worlds. Now, with the full might of Earth's military machine unleashed, these planets face simultaneous assault. The attack on Naltos, the Varen's primary military production center, was led by the newly commissioned ESS Retribution. Captain Miles Fletcher, a veteran of the Armstrong Colony Defense, commanded the assault. All ships, coordinate attack pattern Theta, Fletcher ordered as they dropped out of FTL on the outskirts of the Naltos system. Primary targets are planetary defense grids and command nodes. The Varen defenders fought desperately, but human vessels now possess technologies the Varen had never encountered, innovations born from the fusion of stolen Varen science and humanity's unique approach to warfare. On the Varen homeworld of Varenia, High Chancellor Lorix received reports of coordinated attacks across all their core systems. "Impossible," he whispered. "No species could mount such an operation. Their logistics. Their ships are using some form of improved FTL technology." His military advisor interrupted. "They're moving between systems in half the time our calculations predicted." What the Varen didn't know was that Dr. Hayes had discovered a fundamental flaw in the Varen approach to faster-than-light travel. By recalibrating the field harmonics, human ships could achieve significantly greater speeds while using less energy. As Varen defenses crumbled, something unprecedented occurred. On Teller Prime, the Kith, An ancient species that had submitted to Varen rule 5 centuries earlier rose in revolt. Similar uprisings erupted on a dozen worlds as subject species sensed the Confederacy's weakness. The most significant development came from an unexpected quarter. The Brecken, oldest of the subjugated species, had served as administrators and record-keepers for the Varen Empire. Now, led by Telex, they began releasing classified historical archives to all worlds. For too long, we have been complicit in our own subjugation. Telex broadcast. The humans have shown us that even the most powerful can fall. The Varen are not gods. They are merely tyrants whose time has passed. The truth spread like wildfire. The Varen's supposed technological superiority had largely been stolen from conquered civilizations. Their protection had been exploitation. Their galactic stability had been stagnation enforced at gunpoint. On Earth, Admiral Grant received a communication request from an unexpected source. Representatives from 17 formerly subjugated species seeking formal alliance with humanity. "We have watched how you fight," their spokesperson, a Zell named Vilix, explained. "But more importantly, we have watched how you win. You liberate rather than conquer. You offer partnership rather than domination." Grant's response was measured. "Humanity remembers what it means to be the underdog. We fight the Varen because they threatened our existence, not because we seek their empire." As the alliance formalized, the war entered a new phase. Human military advisors coordinated with resistance movements across Varen space. Former subject species contributed their unique knowledge and abilities to the fight. The Varen's 1,000-year dominance unraveled in months. On Varenia, Lorix faced the unthinkable. Enemies in his own system, the Purifier still not fully operational, and reports of defections among his own military. "We still have the Purifier," he told his inner council. "Once it destroys the human homeworld, the Alliance will crumble." But even this final hope was denied him. The Zell engineers who had helped build the superweapon had left hidden weaknesses in its design. Weaknesses they now revealed to their human allies. A small strike team led by Colonel Tanner infiltrated the Purifier installation. What followed was not a technological victory, but a demonstration of what made humans the ultimate predators. They could operate in any environment, endure extreme conditions, and fight with improvisational brutality when necessary. The Purifier was not merely disabled, it was reprogrammed to self-destruct, taking a significant portion of Varenia's orbital defenses with it. As human-led coalition forces closed in on Varenia itself, the galaxy witnessed the fall of an empire that had seemed eternal, and the rise of humanity as a force unlike any seen before. The siege of Varenia lasted 67 days. Unlike the Varen, who had always used overwhelming force and planetary bombardment to subjugate resistance, humanity employed a different approach. Surgical strikes only. Admiral Grant ordered from his command post on the Vengeance, "We target military installations and government facilities. Civilian casualties are to be avoided at all costs." Captain Ana Diaz, leading the ground assault, implemented these orders with precision. Human and allied forces infiltrated the Varen capital city of Lorixia, dismantling their defenses point by point. "They expected us to flatten their cities," Diaz remarked to her executive officer as they established a forward command post. "Their propaganda told them we're mindless destroyers. Our restraint confuses them more than our strength." The Varen military, accustomed to enemies who fought conventionally, struggled against human special forces who operated in small teams, struck from unexpected angles, and disappeared before counterattacks could be mounted. Humans fought at night, in storms, through toxic atmospheres with breathing apparatus, conditions the Varen considered too extreme for combat operations. High Chancellor Lorix, watching his carefully constructed power base crumble, made a final desperate broadcast to the remaining Confederacy worlds. "The humans will not stop with the Varen," he warned. "They are evolutionary predators who will consume all they encounter. Stand with us now, or face extinction later." But his words fell on deaf ears. Too many had seen the reality. Humans fought the Varen, but offered partnership to those who had been oppressed. The coalition forces now included representatives from 23 formerly subjugated species, all fighting alongside humanity. On the 23rd day of the siege, Varen defense systems around the capital began shutting down systematically. The Brecken administrators, led by Telix, had finally turned against their masters completely, using their access to sabotage critical infrastructure. "We have served in chains for generations," Telix told his people. "Today we choose a different path." Human forces breached the inner sanctums of the Varen government. Colonel Tanner, leading an elite squad, fought through the Chancellor's personal guard to reach Lorix himself. The High Chancellor, confronted in his chambers, appeared genuinely bewildered. "Why do you not simply destroy us?" he asked as Tanner secured him. "It would be more efficient." Tanner studied the alien leader who had ordered the deaths of billions. "Because we're not you," he answered simply. As news of Lorix's capture spread, Varen resistance collapsed across their remaining territories. Within days, representatives from the coalition forces gathered in the Grand Assembly Hall that had once housed the Varen Council. Admiral Grant, representing Earth, addressed the gathered species. "We did not fight this war to replace one empire with another," he declared. "Humanity has no desire to rule the stars. We fought because we refuse to be caged, and because no species should suffer under domination." The assembly debated for 7 days before reaching consensus: the formation of the Galactic Concordat, a mutual defense and cooperation agreement among all former Varen subjects and humanity. Each species would retain sovereignty over their homeworlds and colonies, with disputes to be settled by a council with equal representation. The Varen themselves were confined to their homeworld, their military dismantled, their technology distributed among those they had oppressed. It was a humbling fall for a species that had dominated for a millennium, but they were not exterminated, a mercy they had rarely shown others. As the new galactic order took shape, many alien observers studied humanity with a mixture of gratitude and wariness. They had witnessed humanity's capacity for violence, innovation, and adaptability. They had seen what happened when humans were threatened. "You must understand," Telix told Dr. Hayes during the formation of the Concordat, "the galaxy has never seen a species like yours. You evolved on a death world, in competition with predators that would terrify most sentient beings. You can survive extremes of temperature, radiation, and atmospheric conditions that would kill most of us. You heal from injuries that would be fatal to others, and you never, ever surrender." Hayes smiled slightly. "We're also artists, philosophers, and explorers. We've spent more of our history creating than destroying." "That," Telix replied, "is what gives the galaxy hope, and what makes humans the most fascinating paradox in known space." A decade after the fall of Varenia, the galaxy had transformed. The Galactic Concordat had grown to include 42 species, with humanity serving not as rulers but as protectors and innovators. Captain James Walker I, son of the man whose death had sparked the war, commanded the exploration vessel ESS Discovery. Unlike the warships of the previous decade, the Discovery was built for scientific research and diplomatic missions to the galactic frontier. "New contact, Captain," his sensor officer reported. "Unknown configuration, approaching from the Cygnus arm." Walker straightened in his command chair. "First contact protocols. Open all standard greeting channels." The bridge crew, a mixture of humans and several allied species, moved with practiced efficiency. Since the war, humanity had established itself as the Concordat's primary exploratory force, their adaptability making them uniquely suited for encounters with the unknown. The alien vessel responded cautiously. Its occupants, the crystalline Navar, a species unknown to the Concordat, had heard rumors of the war that had toppled the Varen Confederacy. They approached with trepidation, uncertain whether to expect diplomats or conquerors. What they found surprised them. Humans eager to learn and share rather than dominate, accompanied by a diverse crew of species working as equals. "We have studied your transmissions," The Navar representative communicated after initial exchanges. Your species possesses capabilities that would allow galactic domination. Yet you choose cooperation. This is unexpected. Walker smiled. Humanity learned long ago that our greatest strength isn't our capacity for violence. It's our ability to form communities. We don't thrive in isolation. We thrive through connection. The encounter exemplified humanity's evolving role in the galaxy. The war had revealed humanity's potential as the ultimate predator species, but peace had shown something more profound. Humans were ultimate survivors because they adapted culturally as well as biologically. On Earth, the Memorial of Remembrance stood in what had once been the headquarters of the United Earth Defense Council. Admiral Grant, now retired, walked its solemn halls with Dr. Hayes, looking at the names of those lost in humanity's first interstellar war. "Do you think we've changed?" Hayes asked, gesturing to the memorial. "The Varen feared us because they saw what we could become." Grant considered the question carefully. "We haven't changed our nature. We're still the species that evolved as pursuit predators, that can outlast any prey, that turns disadvantage into innovation. But we've always been more than that." He pointed to a different section of the memorial, where the contributions of allied species were honored alongside human sacrifices. The Varen saw only our predatory potential. They missed what truly makes humans dangerous and valuable: our capacity for empathy. We can see the world through others' eyes, form alliances across biological divides, and fight as fiercely for our friends as for ourselves. Across the stars, humanity's reputation had become complex mythology. In education centers on 100 worlds, young beings learned about the species that had ended 1,000 years of Varen domination. On some worlds, humans were portrayed as noble liberators, on others as terrifying warriors, on still others as evolutionary marvels whose adaptability bordered on the supernatural. The truth, as always, was more nuanced. Humans remained what they had always been: a species shaped by Earth's unforgiving evolution, capable of extraordinary violence when threatened, but equally capable of extraordinary compassion, creativity, and cooperation. The final recognition of humanity's unique place in the galactic order came during the 10th anniversary of the Concordat's formation. Representatives from all member species gathered on neutral territory, a space station orbiting a star equidistant from their major worlds. Telex, now serving as the Concordat's chief historian, presented the assembled delegates with a comprehensive analysis of the war and its aftermath.